The house had always been a sanctuary of quiet afternoons for Emma, a place where time slowed and the world outside seemed to fade into irrelevance, its tall windows filtering sunlight into soft golden patches that warmed the wooden floors and filled the air with a stillness she cherished. Yet today the silence felt different, heavier, as if the absence of her mother, who had left for errands, had carved a hollow in the space between her ribs, a loneliness she couldn't quite name but could feel, pressing against her chest like a forgotten weight. And as she wandered through the living room, her fingers brushed idly across the spines of books stacked neatly on the shelf, their titles familiar yet suddenly strange, as if she were seeing them through a fog, her thoughts drifting not just to memories but to the way the past had woven itself into the fabric of her present, to the people who had shaped her world, her friends from school with their loud laughter and fleeting concerns, her mother with her tired smile and endless chores, and Claire, always Claire, her mother's longtime friend who had become a permanent fixture in their home, as unchanging as the antique clock on the mantel yet as mysterious as the shadows that lingered in the corners of the room, a woman who seemed to carry her own quiet world within her, a world Emma had only glimpsed in fragments, a smile that could warm the coldest day, a sadness that lingered like the scent of rain on dry earth. And as she moved toward the hallway, humming softly to herself, a melody she hadn't realized she knew, she thought about how life could be so paradoxical, how the people closest to you could hide the most, how the quietest moments could become the most unforgettable. And then suddenly, a soft giggle shattered her reverie, a sound so delicate it might have been a mouse scurrying in the walls or a leaf brushing against the window. But Emma froze, her heart lurching in her chest, her eyes darting toward the source, the guest room at the end of the hallway, and for a moment she stood motionless, the air thick with possibility, her mind racing through scenarios, none of them making sense, because the house was supposed to be empty, and yet here was this sound, this intrusion into her solitude, and curiosity, that treacherous thing, overcame caution, and she took a slow step forward, then another, her pulse quickening with each movement, and the giggle came again, quieter now, almost shy, and Emma felt a mix of nervousness and intrigue swirl inside her, a strange excitement that made her skin tingle, because there was something unusual about this moment, something that made the ordinary feel like a secret waiting to be discovered. And when she reached the door she saw it was slightly ajar, a sliver of darkness peeking through the crack, and her pulse hammered in her ears as she raised her hand to push it open, but before she could, a soft voice called out from behind it, "Emma?" And she froze. That voice, that familiar, warm, hesitant voice, and she recognized it immediately, Claire, and she blinked surprised, her mind scrambling to make sense of it. Claire here in the house, and why from behind the closet door? And the door creaked slightly as she edged closer, her heart thumping like a drum, a mixture of alarm and curiosity, because she had always been a careful person, someone who preferred to observe before jumping to conclusions. Yet now, standing at the threshold, she felt a thrill she couldn't explain. Something about the moment felt important, like a page turning in a book she didn't yet understand, and she asked, her voice trembling slightly, "Are you hiding?" And Claire's response was a nervous laugh. Maybe I just needed a little space." And Emma's brows furrowed because it didn't make sense. Why would anyone hide in a closet, and why did Claire of all people seem so oddly happy? And the contradiction between the hiding and the gentle smile tugging at her heart made her pause, and she pushed the door open slowly, half expecting to see someone teasing her, or maybe an empty closet filled with old coats and forgotten shoes, but instead there was Claire, sitting cross-legged, hands resting lightly on her knees, her expression a mixture of relief and quiet amusement, and Emma blinked, unsure how to react, the world suddenly smaller, concentrated in this single room, in this single unexpected encounter, as if the ordinary had shifted, and something unseen had stepped into her life, a secret waiting to unfold. And Claire looked at her, her hazel eyes soft and inviting, and said, her voice barely above a whisper, "I didn't think anyone would find me, I just needed a moment." And Emma nodded slowly, her curiosity deepening, because there was a story here, one Claire wasn't fully telling yet, and she knew that whatever it was, it would change the way she saw her friend forever. And in that quiet sunlit room, as the afternoon light spilled across the floorboards, she realized something she hadn't felt in a long time. Anticipation, the kind that makes the heart race, not with fear, but with the excitement of a story waiting to be discovered. A story that might change everything, and she didn't know it yet. But this moment, this unexpected meeting in a closet, was the beginning of something remarkable, a story of connection, understanding, and the quiet, unspoken ways that people can touch each other's hearts. And she took a deep breath, ready to step closer, ready to uncover the secret behind Claire's mysterious smile, and in that small pause, filled with sunlight and soft silence, the ordinary afternoon had transformed into the start of an unforgettable journey, and as the soft afternoon light stretched across the living room, Emma and Claire sat quietly on the couch, the moment in the closet still hanging gently between them. For a few seconds neither spoke, as if afraid to break the fragile calm. Then, with a shy smile, Claire leaned back and let her gaze drift toward the window, and she began softly, "You know, I've been coming to your house for years, but I don't think I ever really talked to you like this." And Emma tilted her head, curious. "Like this?" And Claire nodded. "Like two people who actually notice each other, not just the surface stuff." And she paused, a faint laugh escaping her lips. "I remember the first time I realized you were paying attention to me, and not just your mom." And Emma felt a small flutter in her chest. "When?" "And," Claire said, her voice tinged with nostalgia. "Your 10th birthday, you were sitting on the floor unwrapping your gifts, but you kept glancing at me with that little mischievous smile. You asked me if I thought the cake looked okay. I thought maybe someone finally noticed that I was more than just your mom's friend." And Emma laughed softly, remembering the moment. She had indeed watched Claire more than anyone else in the room that day, captivated by her warmth and quiet kindness, but she had never said it aloud, not then, not ever. And Claire continued, "I guess that's when I started noticing you too, the way you'd hum to yourself while doing homework, the way you'd talk about books like they were people, the way you cared about small things nobody else noticed. I've always admired that about you." And Emma's throat tightened. She had never thought that Claire, so kind, so gentle, so far away in so many ways, could see her like that. And yet, hearing it now made the quiet moments of their shared past shimmer with new meaning, and they sat in companionable silence, letting memories wash over them like soft waves. Emma remembered the time she and Claire had baked cookies together, laughing when flour dusted their noses. She thought of the rainy afternoons spent building forts in the living room, of whispered stories and secret glances, of the warmth of someone who understood her even when her mother was busy or distracted. And she said quietly, "I always liked being here. Not just because of Mom, but because you made it feel like there was a place where I belonged." And Claire's eyes softened. "I felt the same way sometimes. I think we were both too shy to admit it, or maybe we were afraid of what it would mean if we did." And Emma nodded. She knew the feeling all too well. Life often had a way of keeping people close and yet apart, like two parallel lines that almost touched but never quite did. They had been so near, yet so far. Years of unspoken words and quiet longing filling the spaces in between. And Claire admitted, her voice barely audible, "I used to watch you in the kitchen sometimes. You'd be humming to yourself, mixing ingredients in your little apron, and I'd think, she's so alive, so full of light, and yet I never had the courage to tell you." And Emma's hand twitched slightly, almost reaching for Claire's. "I noticed you too," she whispered. "Even when I didn't say anything, I always wondered what it would be like if you noticed me, really noticed me." And Claire's eyes glistened with something tender, a mixture of gratitude, relief, and nostalgia. "And now you've found me in a closet," she said softly, almost laughing. "Funny, isn't it? After all these years, I didn't expect it to happen like this." And Emma smiled, though her heart felt heavy with the weight of all the moments they had missed. "Maybe some things were waiting for the right time," she said, and Claire nodded. Maybe we just needed the quiet moments, the hidden ones, to really see each other, and now here we are." And they shared a look, full of the kind of understanding that didn't need words. Years of subtle glances, quiet laughter, and shared memories had built something fragile yet beautiful between them. A connection that neither had fully acknowledged, but one that had always been there. And Emma thought of the little things she had admired about Claire. Her patience, her laughter, the way she could make a room feel warm without even trying. And Claire, in turn, thought of Emma's curiosity, her gentle heart, and the way she could bring joy to ordinary moments just by noticing them. And it was as if all the past had been leading to this exact moment. Two people finally finding the courage to acknowledge the quiet bond they had shared all along. And though neither could predict what the future held, there was a comforting certainty in this connection. A feeling that some stories were meant to unfold slowly, with patience, care, and understanding. And for the first time in a long while, Emma felt truly seen. Not just for her actions, not just for her smiles, but for her heart. And Claire felt the same, that unspoken understanding, built over years of subtle gestures and shared memories, wrapped around them like a soft blanket. And in that gentle, quiet space, filled with sunlight and the soft ticking of the clock, Emma realized something important. Sometimes the people who matter most are the ones who have always been there, quietly waiting, patiently watching, and silently hoping, and sometimes, it just takes the right moment to notice, and the afternoon light had softened to a warm, golden glow when Emma glanced at the clock on the wall. Hours had passed since the unexpected closet encounter, yet the room felt suspended in time, as if the world outside no longer mattered. Claire's presence had a way of making ordinary moments feel extraordinary, and Emma couldn't shake the quiet intensity of the connection that had resurfaced, and it was a small thing, a dropped book, that set everything into motion. Emma had been reaching for a novel on the shelf, and as she stretched, her hand nudged a worn copy of poetry off the edge. The book landed with a soft thud at Claire's feet. And oh! Emma exclaimed, hurrying to pick it up, and Claire bent down as well, and for a brief second, their hands touched while reaching for the same book. A small spark of electricity, gentle and fleeting, passed between them. Both froze for a heartbeat, a shared glance saying everything words could not. And I always loved this one, Claire said softly, brushing her fingers over the cover. I used to read it when I needed to remember that some things in life are worth waiting for. And Emma looked at her, realizing in that moment how much the past, the unspoken glances, the shared laughter, the quiet admiration, was now merging with the present. Fate, it seemed, had a strange way of orchestrating moments, small coincidences that reignited emotions. Thought long buried. And I never knew you liked poetry, Emma admitted, feeling a warmth in her chest, and Claire smiled, eyes glimmering with a mix of nostalgia and something deeper. I liked it quietly. I suppose we both did, didn't we? Observing life from the edges, hoping someone would notice. And Emma nodded, her mind flashing back to years of subtle glances, whispered encouragements, and shared silences. It wasn't just curiosity that had drawn her to Claire all those years. It was admiration, respect, and a quiet longing that neither had fully acknowledged until now. And for a moment, the room was silent except for the ticking clock, and Emma felt the weight of the years they had spent near each other, yet slightly apart. The realization hit her with gentle force. They had been dancing around this connection for years, and now the smallest accident, a dropped book, was the key that unlocked it. And Claire's voice broke the silence. You know, I think life has a funny way of giving us second chances, not always in the ways we expect, but sometimes in the quietest, simplest ways. And Emma looked at her, heart swelling. I think you're right, and maybe this is one of those moments. And Claire's eyes softened. She leaned back slightly, letting a calm, reflective silence settle between them. I've been afraid, she admitted. Afraid that things would never change, that we'd always just exist on the edges of each other's lives. But now it feels different. Somehow it feels like everything is in the right place. And Emma reached out instinctively, placing her hand gently over Claire's. The gesture was tender, innocent, yet filled with unspoken meaning. Claire's fingers twitched slightly under hers, and for the first time, both felt the full weight of the emotions that had been quietly building for years. And do you think, Emma began, her voice soft but steady, that maybe we've been waiting for the wrong moments all along? And Claire smiled, a mixture of relief and warmth. I think maybe we were waiting for the right one, and perhaps this is it. And the coincidence of the moment, the dropped book, the sunlight spilling through the window, the quiet room, felt like a gentle nudge from fate itself. It reminded them both of all the tiny threads that had woven their lives together over the years. Laughter shared, secrets kept, glances exchanged, and words never spoken. And Emma's mind wandered to the past, recalling moments she had dismissed as ordinary. Claire laughing at a joke her mother had made, Claire patiently helping her with homework, Claire simply existing in a way that made the house feel warmer. Each memory, small and seemingly insignificant, now carried a new meaning, and Claire too was thinking of the years of closeness that had been there but unacknowledged. She remembered the way Emma's eyes had lit up when discovering a new book, the quiet determination Emma showed in everyday life, and the subtle way she had always made Claire feel noticed, even when no one else seemed to see. And I'm glad we're here, Claire said, voice barely above a whisper. Right now together, even if it's unexpected, even if it's surprising. And Emma smiled, feeling the intensity of the moment settle warmly in her chest. Me too, I've always wanted this, not just the closeness but the understanding, the knowing that someone sees you. And in that quiet living room, as the sun dipped lower in the sky and the soft golden light framed their faces, Emma realized that this present twist, the simple, accidental yet profound moment, was more powerful than anything she could have imagined. It wasn't about grand gestures or dramatic confessions. It was about noticing each other, truly seeing each other, in a way that had been waiting for years to happen, and now in this quiet sunlit space, both Emma and Claire felt the unspoken promise of something deeper. Connection, understanding, and the tender stirrings of a heartfelt bond finally allowed to bloom, and as the shadows lengthened and the room grew softer, both knew one thing with clarity. This was just the beginning. The past had led them here, and the present, so unexpected, so quiet, so beautiful, was showing them exactly what they had been waiting for all along. And the room had grown quieter as the sun dipped lower, painting long shadows across the walls. Emma and Claire sat on opposite ends of the couch, yet the space between them felt charged with everything that had remained unspoken for years. It was a tension neither could name aloud, yet both felt acutely. A longing, a hesitation, and the fragile beauty of emotions waiting to be acknowledged. Emma's fingers toyed with the edge of a cushion, twisting the fabric nervously. She wanted to speak, to break the silence, but every time she opened her mouth, the words caught in her throat. There was something sacred about the quiet they shared, and she was afraid that speaking too soon might shatter it. Claire, too, was struggling. She looked at Emma, eyes soft but guarded, remembering all the moments she had kept to herself. The quiet admiration, the gentle concern, the way she had silently celebrated Emma's smallest victories. She had always felt a connection, but fear of change, of misunderstanding, of the world noticing, had kept her from acknowledging it fully. And Emma began, then stopped, her voice trailing off like a leaf caught in a breeze. Claire tilted her head slightly, giving her a small encouraging smile. "It's okay," she said softly. "You don't have to say anything you're not ready to." Emma shook her head, a faint blush rising to her cheeks. "It's not that, I don't know how to explain it, how to explain what I've felt for so long without it sounding strange or wrong." Claire's eyes softened even more, and she reached out, brushing a stray lock of hair behind her ear. "Sometimes words aren't the point," she said. "Sometimes it's enough to just feel it, to let the other person know without saying it aloud." Emma swallowed hard, feeling the weight of the years they had spent side by side, close enough to touch but separated by unspoken boundaries. Every smile, every glance, every quiet moment of understanding had been a thread connecting them, but the full picture had never been revealed, until now. "And I've always admired you," Emma said finally, her voice trembling just enough to make the words feel real. "Not just as my mom's friend, but as you, the person you are, and I think I've always wanted you to notice me too." Claire's breath hitched slightly, and her hand hovered near Emma's, almost touching but not quite. "Emma, I felt the same," she admitted softly. "I've always noticed you, always cared more than I let on, but I didn't want to risk changing what we had, the closeness, the trust. I didn't want to lose it." Emma's heart swelled at the confession, a mixture of relief and longing washing over her. She had felt the same hesitation, the same fear, the same unspoken truth. For years, they had both been silently aware of something that neither dared name, until now, and the room seemed to shrink around them, the distance between them almost invisible yet infinitely important. Each unspoken word lingered in the air like a soft melody, delicate and powerful all at once. "And I think," Emma whispered, "that we've spent too long pretending this doesn't exist, pretending that it's safer to stay on the edges." Claire nodded, her fingers brushing against her own knee as if gathering courage. "Yes, and yet, even on the edges, I felt it every time you smiled at me, every time you laughed, every little thing you did. I felt it, and I didn't know how to act on it." Emma reached out then, tentatively placing her hand over Claire's. The touch was simple, innocent, yet it carried years of restrained emotion. Claire's fingers twitched, her hand hovering just above Emma's, and a quiet shiver ran between them, a reminder that their connection had never been ordinary. "And you're not alone in this," Emma said softly. "I've been feeling it too for a long time." Claire's eyes glistened with emotion, and she let her hand settle over Emma's. It was a small gesture, yet it spoke volumes. Acknowledgement, understanding, and the fragile courage to confront something long denied. They sat together in silence for a while, letting the warmth of the moment settle around them. The unspoken truth was no longer hidden. It existed now in gentle touches, quiet glances, and the shared knowledge that both had longed for something deeper, yet had feared it. "And I don't know what the future holds," Claire admitted, her voice soft and reflective. "But I do know that this right here, right now, it matters, it's real." Emma nodded, feeling a gentle sense of peace wash over her. "Yes, and that's enough to start with." The shadows deepened around them, but the warmth between Emma and Claire seemed to glow brighter than ever. They didn't need grand gestures or dramatic confessions. The truth was in the small, intimate acknowledgement of years of shared emotions, of longing, and of a connection that had finally been recognized. And in that quiet, sunlit room, Emma and Claire discovered something profound. That sometimes the most important truths are the ones left unspoken for years, waiting for the right moment, the right place, and the right hearts to finally embrace them. And in that delicate balance of hesitation and courage, both knew that they had taken the first meaningful step towards something tender, heartfelt, and enduring. And the room was quiet, but the air felt charged, as if every unspoken word between Emma and Claire had been gathering energy, waiting for the right moment to surface. The late afternoon sunlight slanted through the curtains, casting long, warm shadows across the floor. It was beautiful and ordinary at the same time, yet to both of them it felt monumental. Emma sat on the couch, her hands resting in her lap, fingers twisted nervously. She had always been careful with her feelings, measured in thought and action, but now, the weight of what had remained unspoken for so long pressed down on her. Claire sat across from her, eyes fixed on her, calm on the surface yet betraying a quiet storm underneath. And, "I can't keep this inside anymore," Emma finally said, her voice soft but steady. She took a deep breath, feeling as if the words themselves would release years of tension. "Claire, I've felt this for so long, not just admiration or friendship. It's more than that. I've cared about you more than I've ever admitted." Claire's eyes widened slightly, a flicker of surprise crossing her face. She opened her mouth, then paused, as if weighing the words she had kept buried for years. The room seemed to shrink around them, the space between their souls suddenly urgent, electric with possibility. "And Emma," Claire whispered, her voice trembling in the gentlest way. I feel the same. I've been so afraid to say it, to risk changing what we had. But every time I looked at you, every little moment, I knew I've always known." Emma's chest tightened as relief and joy mingled in a way she hadn't expected. Years of hesitation, of longing, of wondering if these feelings were one-sided, seemed to dissolve in that single moment. The truth, finally spoken, was like sunlight breaking through a long winter. "And I thought maybe I imagined it," Emma admitted, a small laugh escaping her. "I thought you didn't feel it. I kept telling myself to ignore it, but I couldn't, not anymore." Claire reached out slowly, placing her hand over Emma's. It was gentle, tender, yet it spoke volumes of the years of hidden care and quiet longing. "You weren't imagining it," Claire said softly. "You never were. I've just been waiting for the right time, or maybe waiting for courage, and now it feels like we don't have to wait anymore." Emma's eyes glistened, and for the first time, she allowed herself to fully feel the depth of what had been building inside her all these years. Admiration, trust, quiet affection, and a yearning that had grown stronger with every shared laugh and unspoken glance. "And I've wanted to tell you so many times," Emma said, her voice catching slightly. "But I was afraid of ruining everything, our friendship, the comfort of knowing you were there. I didn't want to lose that." Claire nodded, her expression tender and understanding. "I know. I felt the same way. But maybe we've realized something important. That the connection we share is too valuable to stay silent about. That even if it's scary, it's worth taking the risk to speak the truth." The tension in the room shifted, no longer weighted with hesitation, but carrying the soft, shimmering promise of something new, something heartfelt and genuine. Emma felt her hand squeeze Claire's. Small gesture filled with meaning, a way of grounding herself in this new reality. "And even all these years," Claire continued, "I never stopped noticing you, the little things, the quiet moments. They've always mattered. And now that we're finally saying it out loud, it feels like everything makes sense, like we were always meant to get here." Emma's heart swelled. She had always admired Claire's patience, her warmth, her gentle understanding, and now, knowing that Claire had felt the same way, the admiration deepened into something stronger. A feeling of being fully seen, fully understood, and finally connected in a way neither had dared to imagine before. "And I think we've been waiting for the right moment," Emma whispered. "And maybe this is it." Claire smiled, a mixture of relief and joy lighting her features. "Yes, this is it, and we don't have to be afraid anymore." They sat together, hands intertwined, letting the weight of years of silence and longing settle into something beautiful, quiet, and enduring. The moment wasn't loud or dramatic. It didn't need to be. Its power lay in the honesty, in the courage to speak the truth, and in the knowledge that they were no longer bound by hesitation. And the sun slipped lower, casting a soft golden glow over them, highlighting the tender relief in their expressions. Both Emma and Claire felt the turning point in their lives, the moment when hidden emotions could no longer be denied, the moment when the quiet bond of years transformed into a heartfelt acknowledgement of what had always existed between them. "And this feels right?" Emma said softly, leaning just slightly closer. "I can't believe we waited so long." Claire laughed gently, shaking her head. "Neither can I, but I'm glad we did because now we know and now we can move forward together." And in that simple, tender moment, the unspoken truth finally became reality. The fear, the hesitation, the longing. All of it gave way to clarity, connection, and a quiet promise that the bond they had nurtured over years of shared memories, laughter, and subtle affection could now blossom into something real, meaningful, and enduring. It was their turning point. The moment when everything changed, yet everything remained beautifully the same, and the house was quiet again. But it no longer felt empty. The golden light of late afternoon filtered through the windows, creating a soft warmth that seemed to settle in the corners. Wrapping the room in comfort, Emma and Claire sat together on the couch, hands intertwined, hearts calm yet brimming with the quiet joy of honesty finally shared. For years, they had lived side by side, close yet distant, carrying emotions that neither dared to fully voice. But now that weight had lifted, the closet incident, the unspoken confessions, and the tender truths they had shared over the afternoon had brought them to a place of clarity, understanding, and quiet happiness. Claire leaned back, her head resting lightly against the back of the couch. She glanced at Emma and smiled, a soft, radiant smile that spoke of relief, gratitude, and something deeper. A feeling that had been long delayed but now felt utterly right. "And you know," Claire said softly, "I never imagined that a single afternoon could change so much." Emma squeezed her hand gently. "Neither did I, but maybe it wasn't about the afternoon. It was about everything before it. All the little moments that led us here." Claire nodded, her eyes glimmering with emotion. "Yes, every smile, every glance, every shared laugh, they all mattered. They were like breadcrumbs leading to this moment, and now we finally see it clearly." Emma's heart swelled with a warmth that had nothing to do with words. She thought of all the quiet afternoons spent together, all the moments that had seemed ordinary at the time but now shone with significance. She realized that connection didn't always need to be declared loudly. Sometimes it unfolded gently, patiently, over years, until the right moment revealed its true depth. They sat in silence for a while, the kind of silence that felt full rather than empty, as if the air itself understood the bond that had been formed. Neither rushed, neither forced. The world outside could wait. Here in this living room, time had a softer rhythm. "And I've always admired how patient you are," Emma said finally, her voice quiet, thoughtful. "Even when we were both afraid, you never gave up, you kept caring, you noticed me in ways I didn't even know I needed." Claire's eyes glistened. "And you've always had this quiet courage," she replied. "The way you feel deeply but still approach life with kindness and thoughtfulness, it's inspiring. I think that's why I've always felt connected to you, even when we couldn't say it." Emma smiled, a soft, genuine smile that felt like sunlight on her face. "So, what do we do now?" she asked, not nervously but with gentle curiosity. Claire's hand tightened around hers. "We keep moving forward together, carefully, patiently, but honestly. We let the years of connection and understanding guide us, and we let ourselves feel the joy we've waited for so long to embrace." Emma nodded, feeling a sense of peace she hadn't realized she had been longing for. She realized that life didn't need dramatic declarations or grand gestures to feel full. Sometimes the quiet, consistent presence of someone who truly sees you is enough to fill even the loneliest corners of the heart. They stayed like that for a long moment, simply enjoying the comfort of shared space, the soft hum of familiarity, and the gentle realization that the bond between them had shifted into something enduring. It wasn't just friendship anymore, though it carried all the depth of years of trust and understanding. It was a connection built on patience, care, and mutual respect, something rare and beautiful in its simplicity. "And I think," Claire said softly, breaking the silence, "that the best part is knowing we don't have to hide anymore. We can just be together as we are without fear or hesitation." Emma felt a gentle warmth spread through her chest. "Yes, no pretending, no waiting for the right time. The right time is now." They laughed quietly, a soft, harmonious sound that carried both relief and joy. It wasn't loud or boisterous, but it filled the room in the most meaningful way. Every lingering fear, every moment of hesitation from the past seemed to dissolve in that laughter as the sun dipped lower, casting a soft golden glow over them. Emma realized that this was exactly how she had imagined happiness, simple, gentle, and shared with someone who truly understood her. And Claire felt the same, knowing that the years of quiet connection, admiration, and unspoken longing had finally culminated in a moment of clarity, hope, and mutual care. "And we'll take it one day at a time," Claire said, her voice calm, steady, yet full of promise. "No rush, no pressure, just us and the moments we share." Emma nodded, feeling the weight of the world lift slightly from her shoulders. "One day at a time," she echoed. The shadows lengthened, the room grew quieter, and the outside world seemed distant and insignificant. Inside, there was only the warmth of the connection they had nurtured for years, finally allowed to flourish. It was tender, it was patient, and it was real. And as they sat together, hands intertwined, hearts aligned in a quiet understanding, both Emma and Claire knew that life would continue with all its unpredictability, but now they had something steadfast. A bond built on years of trust, care, and unspoken love finally acknowledged. It wasn't a dramatic ending filled with grand declarations. It was better, it was real, it was enduring, and it was theirs. And in that simple, soft, sunlit living room, the resolution was clear. Some connections are meant to last. Some emotions are meant to be nurtured, and sometimes the most profound happiness comes from finally allowing the heart to speak its truth. And for Emma and Claire, that truth was simple, tender, and life-changing. They had found each other.